The darkness of space stretched endlessly in all directions. Among the distant stars, two ships faced each other across a gap of empty void. One ship gleamed with smooth curves and gentle blue lights. The other looked like a block of dark metal, covered in angles and armor plates. Captain Min stood on the bridge of the human destroyer Iron Resolve and watched the alien vessel on his main screen. His crew worked quietly at their stations, fingers ready over their controls. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. "Distance holding steady at 50,000 kilometers," reported Lieutenant Wu from the weapons station. Her dark eyes never left her displays. "Their weapons are powered down, but they could activate in seconds." Min nodded slowly. This was humanity's first contact with intelligent alien life. Everything they did in the next few hours would shape the future. One wrong move could start a war. One right move could start a friendship. "Commander Jin, what are our sensors telling us?" Min asked. The science officer looked up from her console. Her face showed a mixture of excitement and worry. "Captain, their technology is impressive, very impressive. Their ship uses energy shields we've only theorized about. Their power systems are elegant and efficient. They're probably more advanced than us in several areas." "Probably," Min raised an eyebrow. "They use energy weapons exclusively from what I can tell. Directed energy beams, plasma projectors, very clean technology, but their hull is thin, really thin compared to ours." Jin frowned at her readings. "I think they rely on speed and shields rather than armor." Across the void on the alien vessel, High Archon studied his own screens with growing curiosity. They had explored space for thousands of years. They had met dozens of intelligent species. Some became friends. Others became subjects of the Empire. None had ever truly challenged them. This new species called themselves humans. They came from a small yellow star on the edge of mapped space. Their ship looked crude and ugly to eyes. Where vessels flowed like art, this human ship looked like someone had welded metal boxes together and called it finished. "Science Director S, what is your assessment?" asked. His voice carried the calm confidence of someone used to being the most powerful being in any room. S checked his instruments again, his three-fingered hands moving with practiced ease. "The vessel appears to be a military design, Your Eminence, but their technology seems primitive. I detect no energy shields. Their hull is thick metal, nothing more. They use chemical rockets for maneuvering." "Chemical rockets?" Almost laughed. They had abandoned such crude technology ago. "Are they a spacefaring species, or did they just learn to leave their planet?" "That's the strange part, Your Eminence. Their reactor technology is actually quite advanced. I'm reading power outputs that rival our own ships, but everything else seems backward." On the Iron Resolve, Min received a communication alert. "Captain, they're transmitting. Our AI is working on translation now." The main screen flickered. An alien face appeared, had smooth blue-gray skin and large eyes that seemed to glow with inner light. When he spoke, the computer translated his words into Korean with only a slight delay. "Greetings, human vessel. I am High Archon of the Empire. We come in peace and wish to establish dialogue with your species." Min stood. He was aware that every human government on Earth was watching this conversation through delayed transmissions. "Greetings, High Archon. I am Captain Min of the Earth Defense Force. We also seek peaceful contact." The two leaders exchanged careful pleasantries. Both were feeling out the other, trying to understand who they were dealing with. Noticed that the human captain spoke with precision. Every word seemed chosen carefully. This was a disciplined mind. "Captain Min, in the spirit of mutual understanding, I would like to request permission to scan your vessel," said. "It is standard procedure when meeting new species. We would learn about your technology and you could scan our ship as well. A fair exchange of information." Min glanced at Jin. She gave a small nod. Their own scans of the alien ship were all ready. Allowing the aliens to scan in return seemed fair. "I will need to consult with my command," Min said. "Please stand by." He muted the communication and opened a channel to Earth Command. The conversation took 10 minutes. Admiral Jin, his superior officer, finally gave permission. "Let them scan the exterior only, Captain. No active sensors inside the ship. And Min, be ready for anything." When the communication resumed, Min gave his answer. "Hi Archon, we agree to external scans only. Your sensors may not penetrate our hull." "Of course, Captain, that is acceptable," gestured to his crew. "Beginning scans now." On the ship, Science Director S activated the deep scanning arrays. Waves of exotic particles washed over the human destroyer. The data began flowing back immediately. "Initial readings confirm chemical propulsion for small adjustments," S reported. "Hull composition is interesting. Steel alloys primarily, with some materials I'm not familiar with. Analyzing." Tactical officer studied the weapons readings. "High Archon, they appear to be armed with kinetic weapons, magnetic accelerators and missile tubes. How quaint." Several officers chuckled. Kinetic weapons were what primitive species used before they discovered energy projection. Throwing metal at your enemies was crude but effective, in the way that hitting someone with a rock was effective. But as the scans continued, some of the chuckling died down. S's expression changed from amused to confused. "Your Eminence, I'm getting some odd readings. The ship's mass is much higher than it should be for its size. The hull armor is extraordinarily thick. I've never seen plating this dense except on our heavy battleships." "Perhaps they don't know how to build lighter ships," suggested. "Perhaps," S said slowly, but he didn't sound convinced. "I'm also reading massive ammunition stores. If these projectile weapons are their primary armament, they're carrying enough munitions to fight for months without resupply." Leaned forward in his command chair. "Months, that seems excessive." "Very excessive, Your Eminence. And their power reactor." S paused, running the calculations again to make sure. "Their reactor is generating enough power for a ship 3 times this size. Why would they need so much power?" On the Iron Resolve, Jin was conducting her own analysis of the alien scans. "Captain, they're being thorough, very thorough. Our hull is lighting up like a Christmas tree under their sensors." "Are they trying to penetrate inside?" Min asked. "They tried a few times, but our shielding is blocking them. I don't think they can get through without more aggressive scanning, and that would be obvious." Lieutenant Wu spoke up from weapons. "Captain, their scanning is concentrating on our missile tubes and rail guns. They seem very interested in our weapons." "Let them look," Min said calmly. "Everything they're seeing is standard for an Earth destroyer. We're not showing them anything secret." But as he watched the alien ship on his screen, Min wondered what they were thinking. Were they impressed, confused, dismissive? The technology was definitely more advanced in some ways, but human engineers had different priorities. Where aliens built ships to avoid damage, humans built ships to survive it. The scanning continued for another hour. By the end, both sides had gathered volumes of data to analyze, appeared on screen again. "Captain Min, thank you for your cooperation. This has been most enlightening. Perhaps we could arrange a formal meeting to discuss our findings." "I would welcome that, High Archon," Min replied. "Shall we say tomorrow at this same location?" "Agreed. Until tomorrow, Captain." The screen went dark. Min looked around his bridge at his crew. "All right, people. We've got 24 hours to prepare. Jin, I want a full analysis of everything we learned about their ship. Wu, run combat scenarios. I don't expect trouble, but we plan for everything." "Yes, sir," they replied in unison. As his crew went to work, Min stared out at the stars. First contact had gone smoothly. No shots fired, no threats made, but he couldn't shake the feeling that the real test was still coming. They had scanned their ship. Soon they would understand what they were looking at. and Min suspected that understanding would change everything. Science Director S had not slept, needed less sleep than many species, but even so he was exhausted. For 12 hours straight, he had been analyzing the scanned data from the human ship. The more he looked, the less sense it made. He sat alone in his laboratory aboard the command vessel. Display screens surrounded him, each showing different aspects of the human destroyer. Hull density calculations, power output graphs, weapons system analysis, structural integrity models. Every screen told him something that contradicted what he thought he knew. Computer, overlay the human ship design with a standard frigate of equivalent size, he commanded. The holographic display shifted. Two ship outlines appeared side by side. The frigate looked elegant and efficient. The human destroyer looked like a flying brick. Display mass comparison. Numbers appeared. S felt his stomach tighten. The human ship was 4 times heavier than the frigate, 4 times for the same external dimensions. "How is this possible?" he muttered. "Show me hull composition breakdown." The computer analyzed the scan data. The human ship's outer hull was made of layered steel alloys, some kind of ceramic composite, and materials the database didn't recognize. The hull was 2 meters thick in most places, 2 meters of solid armor. Ships had hulls measured in centimeters. They relied on shields and speed. If something got through their defenses, the ship was usually finished anyway. Building thick armor was seen as wasteful and primitive. But this human ship, it was built like someone expected it to be hit, expected it to take damage, expected to keep fighting anyway. Computer, calculate how much damage this armor could withstand. The computer ran simulations. The results made S lean back in his chair. A standard plasma beam would take sustained fire to burn through that armor. Missiles would need multiple direct hits, and that was just the outer hull. The scans suggested there were multiple armored bulkheads inside the ship too. He pulled up the weapons data. The human ship carried what the database called rail guns and missile launchers, primitive names for primitive weapons, except. Computer, calculate the kinetic energy of a projectile from these rail guns based on the power readings we detected. The computer worked. The answer appeared. S stared at it, convinced there must be an error. "That can't be right. Check the calculations again." The computer confirmed. No error. The human rail guns accelerated metal slugs to a significant fraction of light speed. Each projectile hit with the energy of a small nuclear explosion, and the ship carried thousands of these projectiles. "Show me missile analysis." The missiles were worse. The scans had detected fusion signatures. These weren't simple explosive warheads. They were fusion bombs. Each missile carried a miniature sun's worth of destructive power. "How many missiles?" S asked, afraid of the answer. Estimated 600 tubes detected. Likely capacity of 20 missiles per tube based on structural analysis. 12,000 fusion missiles. On a destroyer. A small ship by human standards, if their naming conventions meant anything similar to one's. S stood up and began packing. His mind was racing. Everything about this ship suggested a completely different philosophy of warfare than what the used. The fought with precision, clean energy weapons, elegant tactics, disable enemy shields, then destroy the ship quickly. Humans apparently built ships that could survive having pieces blown off and keep fighting. A chime announced a visitor. The door opened and Tactical Officer entered. He looked as tired as S felt. "You've been analyzing the weapons too?" S asked. Nodded grimly. "I have, and I don't like what I'm seeing. These humans. They don't fight like anyone we've ever encountered." "What do you mean?" "Look at this," brought up a tactical display. "I've been running combat simulations. Human ship versus frigate. Wanna guess who wins?" "Our shields would stop their primitive weapons," S said, but his voice lacked confidence. "For a while, yes, but here's the problem. They can keep shooting almost indefinitely. Our shields require enormous power to maintain under sustained fire. Eventually, they'll fail, and when they do, ran the simulation. The ship's shields collapsed after 15 minutes of sustained fire. The first slug that got through tore the frigate in half. But we would destroy them first, S protested. Our weapons are more advanced. Are they? Pulled up another simulation. Watch what happens when we hit the human ship. The plasma beams struck the human destroyer. They burned through the outer armor slowly, very slowly. The human ship returned fire. A slug hit the frigate's shield, causing it to flare and drain power. Then another hit, and another. They can afford to trade blows, said quietly. We can't. One hit that gets through our shields and we're done. They can take dozens of hits and keep fighting. S felt cold. Have you shown this to the High Archon? Not yet. I wanted to confirm my findings with you first. Please tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm missing something. S looked at all his data again. He wanted to find an error, some miscalculation that would make this less terrifying, but everything checked out. You're not wrong, he said finally. If anything, you might be underestimating them. I found something else. Look at their power reactor. He brought up the energy readings. This reactor generates enough power for a ship 3 times this size. Why would they need so much power? Redundancy, guessed. That's what I thought at first, but then I looked closer. Their power distribution system has multiple independent pathways. If one system gets destroyed, power automatically reroutes through backups. They have backups for their backups. That's excessive. Everything about this ship is excessive by our standards. Excessive armor, excessive weapons, excessive power, excessive ammunition. It's like they designed it expecting everything to go wrong and they'd need to keep fighting anyway. Was quiet for a moment. We need to tell the High Archon. He needs to know what we're dealing with. Agreed, but first there's one more thing. S pulled up structural scans of the ship's interior. Look at the crew sections. The internal layout appeared, studied it, his eyes widening. Those are armored compartments. Each section can be sealed off independently. Yes, and look here and here and here. S highlighted dozens of small rooms throughout the ship. Medical facilities, combat trauma centers, they're everywhere. They expect to be boarded, said slowly. They expect enemies to get inside their ship, and they've prepared for deck-by-deck fighting. Or they expect to take heavy damage and still need to treat wounded crew. Either way, they're planning for scenarios we would consider hopeless. The two looked at each other. A horrible understanding was growing between them. This is a destroyer, S said. They called it a destroyer. In terms, that's a small military vessel, not a capital ship, not a battleship, a destroyer. If this is small, couldn't finish the thought. We need to know more. How many of these ships do they have? What do their bigger ships look like? What kind of species builds warships like this? They found High Archon in his command chamber, reviewing diplomatic reports. He looked up as they entered. Science Director, Tactical Officer, you both look troubled. What have you found? S and exchanged glances. How did you tell your leader that you had potentially just made first contact with the most dangerous military force in the galaxy? Your Eminence, S began carefully, our analysis of the human ship is complete. The findings are concerning. Concerning how? The human vessel is not what it appears. Yes, their technology is less elegant than ours in many ways, but their approach to warfare is fundamentally different and possibly more effective. His expression hardened. Explain. For the next hour, S and presented their findings. They showed the armor analysis, the weapons data, the power systems, the redundancies, the combat simulations, every piece of evidence that pointed to the same conclusion. Humans didn't build ships to fight wars. They built ships to survive wars. When they finished, sat in silence. His face was unreadable. Finally, he spoke. You're telling me that this one human destroyer could potentially defeat multiple frigates? In a sustained engagement, yes, Your Eminence said. We would need to overwhelm them with numbers or use our capital ships. And this is their small ship. Yes, Your Eminence. Stood and walked to the viewing port. The human destroyer floated in the distance, its dark hull reflecting the starlight. It looked so crude, so ugly, so dangerous. What else did you learn? There must be more. We attempted to access their computer systems for more information, S said. We were blocked. Their digital security is actually quite sophisticated. However, we did intercept some general communications, public broadcasts, educational materials, that sort of thing. And they have a concept they call human history. From what we can tell, they have been fighting wars among themselves for their entire existence as a species. Thousands of years of constant warfare. Turned around slowly, constant warfare with themselves. Yes, Your Eminence, they only unified their planet recently. In cosmic terms, very recently. A few centuries ago, they were still divided into hundreds of competing nations, all armed, all fighting. Then how are they in space? They developed while still fighting among themselves, said. In fact, many of their space technologies came from military research. Their rockets began as weapons, their satellites as spy platforms. They militarized space before they colonized it. Looked back at the human ship, a species that had been at war with itself a species that learned to reach the stars while still learning to stop killing each other. A species whose first instinct when building a spaceship was to make sure it could take a beating and hit back twice as hard. We're meeting with them tomorrow, said. We will proceed with diplomacy, but I want our fleet on standby, and I want a full report prepared for the High Council. They need to know about this. Yes, Your Eminence. As S and left, remained at the viewing port. He had explored space for decades. He had met many species, but he had never felt this particular combination of fear and curiosity before. What kind of people had humanity become, forged in the fire of constant war? And more importantly, what did they want? Tomorrow would bring answers, just hoped he was ready for them. The command chamber was filled with officers. High Archon had called an emergency briefing. Word had spread through the ship that something serious was happening. The crew knew it involved the humans, and rumors were flying. Science Director S stood at the front of the room with several display screens behind him. His three-fingered hands trembled slightly as he prepared his presentation. In his long career, he had never had to deliver news like this. Begin, commanded. S touched the control panel. The first image appeared. It showed the human destroyer from multiple angles, with various systems highlighted in different colors. This is what we know about the human vessel Iron Resolve, S began. As I reported yesterday, it is heavily armored, heavily armed, and built with extensive redundancy. But overnight, my team continued analyzing the data. What we found changes everything. He pulled up a new display. It showed streams of data, mathematical formulas, and comparison charts. We managed to decode some of their computer system's basic architecture. Nothing classified, just general operations data. And we found something disturbing. The ship's tactical computer runs constant combat simulations, hundreds of different scenarios, fighting against multiple enemies, fighting with critical systems damaged, fighting while outnumbered, fighting while the ship is literally falling apart. Military advisor Al, an old veteran with scars from a dozen campaigns, leaned forward. Combat simulations are normal. We run them too. Not like this, S said. Their simulations include scenarios we would never consider. Fighting after losing main power. Fighting after hull breaches in multiple sections. Fighting after losing 70% of the crew. They have tactical responses programmed for situations that we would classify as ship lost, abandoned vessel. The room went quiet. stepped forward to continue the briefing. We also analyzed their crew training records that were in the unclassified database. Their military personnel trained continuously for combat, not just ship operations but personal combat, hand-to-hand fighting, small arms training, damage control under fire. Their entire crew, from the captain to the maintenance workers, are trained soldiers first. Perhaps they face many pirates, suggested a junior officer. We considered that, so we looked deeper. We found references to something they call military doctrine. It's their philosophy of how to fight wars, and their doctrine is comprehensive. He pulled up text documents translated into script. This is from a human military manual. I'll read a few sections. Quote, "Assume enemy weapons are more advanced than your own. Compensate with superior firepower and armor." Another quote, "If you find yourself in a fair fight, your tactics are wrong. Always maintain overwhelming advantage." "That's just good tactics," Al said. There's more. Quote, "Redundancy saves lives. Every critical system should have 3 ways to operate it. If you only have 2 backups, you don't have enough. And this one, the best weapon is one you never have to use. The second best weapon is one that's so terrible the enemy won't fight you." S added, "They have a saying. We found it referenced in multiple documents. Peace through superior firepower. They believe that being too dangerous to attack is the best way to prevent war." Stood up. "Are you telling me that humans build these fortress ships not to conquer, but to avoid being conquered?" "That's what the evidence suggests, Your Eminence, but there's more, much more." S pulled up historical data. "We accessed their public information networks during our data exchange. They have extensive historical records available. The picture they paint is terrifying." The display showed a planet, Earth, beautiful blue oceans and green continents. Humanity evolved on this world. For most of their history, they were divided into thousands of separate tribes, nations, and empires, all competing, all fighting. They developed agriculture, writing, mathematics, philosophy, and art, and through all of it they fought constant wars. Images flashed across the screen, ancient battles, medieval sieges, modern warfare. Each era showed increasingly sophisticated weapons. They invented gunpowder and used it to make better weapons. They discovered electricity and used it to make better weapons. They split the atom and used it to make better weapons. Every major technological advancement in human history was applied to warfare within years, sometimes months. "Barbaric," someone muttered. "Effective," Al countered. "Terrible but effective. Evolution through conflict." S nodded. "Exactly. About 80 years ago, they developed nuclear weapons, bombs that could destroy entire cities. They used them. Twice. Then they realized they had created weapons powerful enough to destroy their own planet." "That must have stopped the fighting," an officer said hopefully. "No," said quietly. "It changed the fighting. They created something called mutually assured destruction. The idea that if 2 sides both have world-ending weapons, neither side will use them because both would die. War became too dangerous, so they found ways to fight smaller wars instead. Proxy wars, limited wars, wars with rules." "Wars with rules?" asked. "How can war have rules?" "They made them up," S said. "They created international laws about how to fight, what weapons were acceptable, how to treat prisoners, how to avoid civilian casualties. They fought wars while trying to minimize the damage. It's insane and brilliant at the same time." The display changed to show a timeline. 50 years ago, humanity was still divided into competing nations, multiple countries with nuclear weapons all aiming at each other. Then something changed. They found evidence of extinct alien life in their solar system. Not us, someone else from millions of years ago, just ruins and artifacts. But it made them realize they weren't alone in the universe. "That united them?" asked. "Partially. They realized that if hostile aliens existed, humanity needed to face them together. Over the next few decades, Earth slowly unified, not through conquest but through cooperation. The last major war on Earth ended 23 years ago. They've had peace since then. 23 years, Al said softly. We've had peace for 23 centuries. Yes, but here's what's important. When they unified, they didn't dismantle their militaries. They combined them. Every nation contributed their best weapons, tactics, and soldiers to create the Earth Defense Force, and they kept building warships. Lots of warships. S pulled up new data. From their public information, we estimate they have approximately 4,000 military vessels. About 60% are destroyers and frigates like the Iron Resolve. 30% are cruisers and carriers. 10% are battleships and dreadnoughts. The room erupted in shocked voices. 4,000 warships. The Empire, spanning 200 star systems, had maybe 3,000 ships total, and this single-planet species had more. Held up his hand for silence. What about their larger ships, the battleships? We don't have detailed information, S admitted. But if the Iron Resolve is an example of their design philosophy, we can extrapolate. If their destroyers are this heavily built, their battleships must be monsters. Mobile fortresses with firepower that could crack planets. Why? Asked. Why build such a massive military if they're at peace? Because they remember what war costs, said. Every human alive knows someone who died in war. Their entire cultural history is warfare. They unified because they finally learned that fighting themselves was stupid. But they didn't forget how to fight. They just redirected that capability outward. S brought up the final piece of data. We found something in their military database, a strategic document outlining their defense policy. It's public information, not classified. They're not hiding their intentions. The document appeared on screen. S read it aloud. Quote, humanity will never again be at the mercy of others. We have fought too long and lost too many to allow our species to be threatened. We extend friendship to all peaceful species. We seek cooperation and mutual benefit, but we will not be conquered. We will not be enslaved. We will not surrender. Anyone who threatens humanity will face the full weight of our united strength. We have walked through fire and emerged stronger. We are ready for whatever the universe holds. The room was silent. Every officer understood what they were hearing. This wasn't a threat. It was a promise. Humanity had earned their strength through blood and suffering. They had unified not out of love, but out of necessity. And they had built a military machine designed to ensure they would never be victims again. There's one more thing, S said quietly. We found casualty statistics from their last major war. In 4 years of fighting, humanity lost 200 million people. 200 million. They fought that war with primitive weapons compared to what they have now, and they kept fighting until one side surrendered. They lost 200 million and kept fighting, someone whispered. They lost 200 million on both sides combined, S corrected. And yes, they kept fighting, because humans don't surrender easily. They take staggering casualties and keep coming. It's not courage or stupidity, it's just how they're built. They're endurance hunters on their planet. They evolved to chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. They bring that same persistence to warfare. Sat down heavily. He felt tired, old. The universe had suddenly become a more dangerous place. Or rather, it had always been this dangerous, and he was just now realizing it. Military Advisor Al, your assessment. The old warrior took a long moment before answering. Your Eminence, if humanity wanted to conquer the galaxy, they probably could. They have the weapons, they have the numbers, they have the will. The fact that they're offering us friendship instead of demands tells me something important. What? They mean it. They've seen enough war. They know what it costs. If they wanted to fight us, they wouldn't be talking. They'd be shooting. The fact that we're having diplomatic meetings instead of battles means humanity has learned something from all that suffering. What have they learned? That winning isn't the same as surviving. That strength means nothing if you lose what makes you worth defending. That peace isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Al looked at the image of the human ship. They built ships that can survive anything because they've lost too many ships. They train their people for brutal combat because they've lost too many people. Everything about them screams never again. They're not looking to start wars. They're making sure they can finish them. Nodded slowly. Then we will proceed with diplomacy, but I want the High Council informed immediately. All of this data, all of these findings, everything. They need to understand what we've encountered. And if the Council orders us to attack while we have surprise, an officer asked. Looked at him coldly. Then I will ask the Council if they're willing to fight a species that lost 200 million people and considered it an acceptable price for victory. I will ask if they're willing to face 4,000 warships designed to take punishment and keep fighting. I will ask if they're ready to fight an enemy that has been perfecting warfare for 10,000 years. He stood up. We will meet with the humans tomorrow as planned. We will treat them with respect, because they have earned it, and because I very much want them as friends rather than enemies. The meeting room aboard the command ship was designed to be welcoming. Soft lights illuminated comfortable seating arranged in a circle. Displays on the walls showed peaceful images of various worlds. Everything about the space said, "We come in peace." Captain Min noticed all of this as he materialized in the transport beam with Commander Jin and Lieutenant Wu beside him. The had insisted on hosting the meeting, and Min had agreed. It was a sign of good faith. High Archon stood waiting with Science Director S and Military Advisor Al. The leader smiled, though Min noticed the smile didn't quite reach his eyes. The alien was nervous, very nervous. "Captain Min, welcome aboard. Please sit," gestured to the seating. The two groups settled across from each other. For a moment, nobody spoke. The silence stretched. Min waited patiently. He had learned long ago that the first person to speak in a negotiation often revealed more than they intended. Broke first. "Captain, I must be honest with you. We conducted extensive analysis of our scans of your vessel. What we found has given us much to think about." "I expected you would," Min said calmly. "We analyzed your ship as well. Your technology is impressive. Your energy systems are more efficient than ours. Your shield technology is something we're still trying to understand." "But you noticed we have thin hulls," said. "Yes, different design philosophy. You build for speed and precision. We build for endurance." "Why?" the question came from S. "Why build ships that heavy, that armored? It must cost enormous resources." Jin leaned forward. "May I answer that, Captain?" Min nodded. "High Archon, our ships are built the way they are because of our history. We humans have been at war for most of our existence. We know what happens when ships aren't tough enough. People die. We decided we'd rather spend resources on armor than on memorial services." The blunt honesty made blink. "You've lost many ships." "We've lost thousands," Min said quietly. "In our last major war alone, we lost 317 warships, over 50,000 crew. That war ended 23 years ago. Many of us in this room served in it." "You were in that war?" S asked. "I was a junior lieutenant," Min confirmed. "Commander Jin was a weapons officer. Lieutenant Wu was a child, but his father died in the Battle of New Horizon. We all carry those losses." They exchanged glances. Al spoke up. "We read some of your history, the wars you fought among yourselves. I cannot imagine it. They had wars long ago, but we unified thousands of years ago." "You're fortunate," Jin said. "We weren't so wise. We fought over land, resources, religion, ideology, and sometimes just because we could. For thousands of years might made right on Earth." "What changed?" asked. Lieutenant Wu answered. He was younger than the others, with an earnest face that made him look even younger. "We found proof we weren't alone. 52 years ago, we discovered ruins on one of our outer planets. Ancient structures, millions of years old, from some species that existed and vanished before humans even evolved. We know of them, S said softly. The ancient ones, we've found their ruins too. Then you understand, Wu continued. Finding those ruins changed everything. We realized the universe was bigger than our little conflicts. We realized that if other species existed, humanity needed to stand together. We started cooperating instead of competing. It took decades, but we did it. You unified out of fear? Asked. We unified out of wisdom, Min corrected gently. Fear was the motivation. Wisdom was the result. We looked at our history and asked ourselves what we wanted our future to be. Did we want to meet other species as a divided, violent race, or as a unified civilization? But you kept your weapons, Al noted. Of course we did, Min said. We're not stupid. Unity doesn't mean defenseless. We learned that strength prevents wars better than promises. We unified Earth, but we also built the most powerful defense force in human history, because we remember what it's like to be weak. Took a long breath. Captain, I must tell you something. When we first saw your ship, we thought you were primitive. Your thick hulls, your kinetic weapons, your chemical rockets. We thought you were a young species, barely into space. Many people make that mistake, Jin said with a slight smile. We prefer it that way. Let people underestimate us. But then we analyzed the data more carefully, continued. We realized your ship isn't primitive. It's specialized, built for a specific purpose, built to take damage and keep fighting, built by people who understand warfare at a fundamental level. Because we've been doing it for 10,000 years, Min said. Yes. And your weapons, S added. Your fire projectiles at relativistic speeds. Each shot hits like a tactical nuclear weapon. Your missiles carry fusion warheads. A single spread from your ship could destroy multiple targets. Standard armament for a destroyer, Lieutenant Wu said casually. The look disturbed. Standard armament. What these humans considered normal firepower could flatten cities. How many ships like this do you have? Asked carefully. The Earth Defense Force operates 4,214 military vessels, Min answered immediately. That's not classified information. Any civilian can look it up on our networks. About 2,500 are destroyers and frigates like the Iron Resolve. 1,200 are cruisers and carriers. 400 are battleships and dreadnoughts. The rest are support vessels, transports, and specialized craft. 4,000 ships, Al said, from one planet. We have a saying, Jin said. Never again. It means we will never again be in a position where we can't defend ourselves. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier exists to make sure humanity survives whatever comes. You expect trouble, said. We prepare for trouble, Min corrected. Big difference. We hope for peace. We plan for war. It's served us well so far. S looked troubled. But such a large military must be expensive. How do you maintain it? Our entire society is geared toward it, Wu explained. Every citizen serves 2 years in the defense force, not all in combat positions. Many serve in support, logistics, medical, technical fields, but everyone contributes. Everyone understands what defense means. Mandatory military service looked shocked. For everyone. It builds unity, Jin said. Rich or poor, genius or average, everyone serves together. You learn to depend on each other. You learn that humanity is bigger than yourself. It's one of the best things we did when we unified. In after service, Al asked. You go on with your life, Min said. Most people become civilians. They pursue careers, raise families, live normal lives, but they remember their training. If we ever needed to call up reserves, we could mobilize billions of trained personnel. The number hung in the air. Billions. They couldn't muster that many soldiers if they drafted their entire population. You're making us sound terrifying, Jin said with a gentle smile. That's not our intention. We're not conquerors. We don't want your worlds or your resources. We want friends. Then why tell us all this? Asked. Why reveal your strength? Because friendship requires honesty, Min said. We could have hidden our capabilities, let you think we were primitive, but that wouldn't be fair. You deserve to know who you're dealing with. We're strong, yes. Dangerous, yes. But we're not your enemy unless you make us one. Is that a threat? S asked nervously. It's a fact, Min said simply. We extend our hand in friendship. Take it and you'll find us the most loyal allies you could ask for. We'll share our technology, our resources, our strength. But if you choose hostility, he let the sentence hang. You'll destroy us, finished. We'll defend ourselves, Min corrected. There's a difference. We don't want to fight you. We've fought enough. But we won't be victims either. We can't be. We've lost too much already. Al spoke up. Captain, a question. In your last major war, you lost 200 million people. How did you keep fighting? Most species would surrender after losses like that. Min's face grew somber. Because surrender meant extinction. The war was between two ideological blocks. Both sides believed the other would destroy their way of life. So both sides fought until they couldn't fight anymore. It was stupid and tragic and necessary all at once. I lost friends in that war, Jin added quietly. People I trained with, people I loved. But we kept fighting because we had to, because giving up meant letting those deaths be meaningless. Humans don't surrender easily, Wu said. It's not in our nature. We're persistence predators. On Earth, before we had technology, we hunted by chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. We'd track animals for days, never stopping, never giving up. We brought that same mindset to warfare. We can take casualties that would break other species and keep coming. That's terrifying, S whispered. It is, Min agreed. It's terrifying to us too. That's why we unified. That's why we work so hard for peace. Because we know what we're capable of when we fight. We've seen it. We've lived it. We don't want to see it again. Stood and walked to one of the displays. He stood there for a long moment, looking at peaceful images of worlds. Finally, he turned back. Captain Min, I'm going to be honest with you. My people are afraid. We scanned your ship expecting to find a curious but manageable species. Instead, we found something that challenges everything we thought we knew about warfare. Your single destroyer could probably defeat multiple frigates. Your fleet could overwhelm ours through sheer endurance alone. And you built all of this while fighting among yourselves. Yes, Min said simply. Why should we trust you? What's to stop you from conquering our worlds once you're strong enough? Min stood as well. He walked over to stand beside. Because we've already conquered all the worlds we wanted. We have Earth. We have colonies on 12 planets and moons. We have everything we need. What would conquering your worlds gain us except enemies, resources? We can mine asteroids. Territory, space is infinite. Power. We already have more ships than we need. He turned to face directly. High Archon, we don't want to rule you. We want to know you. We want to learn from you. Your shield technology could save human lives. Your energy systems could improve our efficiency. Your art, culture, and philosophy could enrich ours. In return, we can teach you our materials science, our weapons technology if you want it, and most importantly, our hard-earned lessons about unity and survival. And if we say no, asked, if we want nothing to do with humanity, then we'll be disappointed but we'll respect it, Min said. We'll mark your territory as off-limits. We'll go our separate ways. We won't force friendship on anyone, but we hope you won't choose that. Because the universe is a big place and having friends makes it less lonely. Looked into the human captain's eyes. He saw no deception there, no hidden malice, just an honest offer from a species that had walked through fire and emerged stronger but tired. They weren't looking for more battles. They were looking for peace. I need to consult with my High Council, said finally. This decision is too big for me alone. Of course, Min said. Take all the time you need. We're not going anywhere. As the humans prepared to transport back to their ship, Jin paused. High Archon, one more thing. On our ship, we have a botanical garden, plants from Earth. It helps the crew remember home during long voyages. Would you like to see it? Consider it a gesture of goodwill. was surprised. A garden on a warship. We're warriors, Jin said with a smile. But we're also human. We need beauty as much as we need weapons, maybe more. And for the first time, smiled genuinely. I would like that very much, Commander. High Archon stood before the High Council. The chamber was enormous, filled with representatives from 200 star systems. Holographic displays showed council members from across the Empire, all waiting to hear his report. Grand Counselor, the supreme leader of the, sat at the center. She was old, even by standards, her skin pale with age but her eyes still sharp and clear. High Archon, she said, her voice carrying through the chamber. You have requested an emergency session to discuss first contact with a species calling themselves humans. We have reviewed your preliminary reports. They are concerning. That is an understatement, Grand Counselor replied. I stand before you today to report that we have encountered the most militarily capable species we have ever met, and we must decide how to respond. Murmurs rippled through the council, activated the displays and began his presentation. For 2 hours he showed them everything: the scan data, the weapons analysis, the historical records, the combat simulations, every piece of evidence that painted a picture of humanity as a warrior race that had somehow achieved peace. When he finished, the chamber was silent. Finally, Counselor, the military commander of the Eastern Territories, spoke up. These humans have 4,000 warships. We have 3,000. On their own, they match our military strength. And we control 200 star systems. They control 1 planet and a few colonies. That is correct, Counselor confirmed. This is unacceptable, said loudly. They are a threat. We should strike now while we still have the advantage, destroy their fleet before they grow stronger. Several counselors nodded in agreement, but raised his hand. With respect, Counselor, we do not have the advantage. Did you not hear my report? Their ships are built to survive. A war with humanity would be devastating for both sides. We might win, but the cost would cripple us. Then what do you suggest? Demanded. That we do nothing. Let them grow stronger until they decide to conquer us. I suggest we become their allies, said firmly. Because despite everything I've told you about their military power, I left out the most important detail. What detail? Asked. They don't want to fight us. In all our interactions, they have been professional, honest, and peaceful. Captain Min could have threatened us. He could have demanded concessions. Instead, he offered friendship. He showed us his strength not to intimidate us but to be honest with us. Words are cheap, scoffed. Then look at actions, countered. When we scanned their ship, they let us. They could have fired on us for the intrusion. When we requested a meeting, they came unarmed to our ship. They showed vulnerability. They trusted us not to harm them. Science Director S., who had accompanied to the council meeting, spoke up. If I may, Grand Counselor, I have studied human psychology from their public records. They are a species that values loyalty above almost everything else. If you attack them, they will fight you forever. But if you befriend them, they will defend you with the same ferocity they would defend themselves. How can we know that? Another counselor asked. Because they unified their entire planet on that principle, S answered. Former enemies became allies. Former rivals became friends. They did it because they realized cooperation was better than conflict. They're offering us the same choice. Leaned forward. High Archon, you have met these humans face to face. You have spoken with their captain. What is your honest assessment? Are they trustworthy? Took a deep breath. Grand Counselor, in my career I have met hundreds of species. I have negotiated with peaceful traders and faced hostile invaders. I have learned to read people, and when I looked into Captain Min's eyes, I saw someone who was tired of war, someone who had seen too much death, someone who desperately wanted peace but was prepared for war. He paused. Humans are dangerous, yes, but they are dangerous like a well-trained guard is dangerous. They won't attack unless provoked. They seek peace but maintain strength. That is not a threat. That is wisdom. Wisdom born from 10,000 years of warfare, muttered. Exactly, said. They have learned every lesson about war the hard way. They know what it costs. They know what it takes to win. And most importantly, they know that winning isn't always worth the price. That knowledge makes them better allies than enemies. Looked around the chamber. The council will now debate and vote. High Archon, please wait outside. Bowed and left the chamber. Outside he found S and Al waiting. They sat in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. What do you think they'll decide? S asked after a while. I don't know, admitted. The council is wise, but they are also cautious. They might choose to avoid humanity entirely, create a buffer zone and pretend we never met. That would be foolish, Al said. The galaxy is large but not infinite. Eventually humans will expand. Eventually we will meet again. Better to make friends now than enemies later. Hours passed. Finally, a messenger emerged from the council chamber. High Archon, the council has reached a decision. Stood and walked back inside. The councilors looked tired from the long debate. Spoke. High Archon, the High Council has voted. By a margin of 63% to 37%, we choose to pursue diplomatic relations with humanity. You are authorized to negotiate a formal treaty of friendship and mutual defense. Felt relief wash over him. Thank you, Grand Counselor. You have made the wise choice. I hope so, said dryly. Because if we're wrong, we've just allied ourselves with the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Don't make me regret this decision, High Archon. I won't, Grand Counselor. 2 days later, met with Captain Min again. This time, Admiral Jin joined the meeting via holographic communication from Earth. She was an older woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. High Archon, she said, Captain Min has briefed me on your conversations. Earth Command has reviewed the situation. We are prepared to offer a formal alliance. As is the Empire, replied. Our High Council has voted in favor of diplomatic relations. Excellent, Admiral Jin said. Then let's discuss terms. First, non-aggression. Neither side will attack the other's territories or vessels. Agreed, said. Second, cultural exchange. We'll share information about our societies, histories, and technologies, with appropriate safeguards for sensitive information, of course. Agreed. Third, mutual defense. If either of our peoples is attacked by a hostile force, the other will provide military support. Hesitated. That's a significant commitment. It is, Admiral Jin agreed. But friendship means something to us. If we call someone an ally, we mean it. We'll defend you like you were human. And you expect the same from us. We hope for the same, Admiral Jin corrected. We don't demand anything. But yes, if someone attacks Earth, we would hope our allies would stand with us. Captain Min spoke up. High Archon, think of it this way. Humanity has been looking for friends among the stars for 50 years. You're the first species we've met that shares our values of peace and cooperation. We want this alliance to work. We'll do everything in our power to make sure it does. Made his decision. Then we accept all terms. Let us formalize this alliance. The treaty was signed 3 days later. Representatives from both species gathered aboard a neutral space station hastily constructed at the border of their territories. And Admiral Jin signed the document while cameras from both civilizations recorded the historic moment. To friendship between and humanity, said, raising a glass of ceremonial wine. To friendship, Admiral Jin echoed, raising her glass of Earth whiskey. The alliance grew quickly. Within a month, scientists arrived on Earth to share shield technology. Human engineers traveled to worlds to teach advanced material science. Trade routes opened. Cultural exchanges began. Children on both worlds learned about the other species in school. The other alien civilizations in the region took notice. The Empire was respected but not feared. Humanity was unknown, but the combination of the two together made every neighboring power reconsider their plans. The Collective, a minor empire that had been eyeing border worlds, suddenly their fleets. The Krill sovereignty, pirates who had raided shipping for years, vanished overnight when they learned humans had fusion missiles and no patience for pirates. 6 months after the treaty was signed, the first joint human patrol began. The Iron Resolve flew alongside 3 frigates, protecting trade routes that benefited both species. Captain Min, recently promoted to admiral, stood on his bridge watching the ships keep perfect formation with his vessel. Commander Jin stood beside him. "Hard to believe it's only been 6 months," she said. "Feels like we've known them for years." "Good allies do that," Min replied. "They become family." Lieutenant Wu looked up from her station. "Admiral, we're receiving a distress call. Civilian transport under attack by unknown vessels. They're requesting assistance." "Or human ship?" Min asked. "Neither, sir. It's a vessel. They're not part of our alliance." Min looked at the tactical display. The transport was 40 minutes away at maximum speed. The attackers were still engaged. He made his decision in seconds. All ships maximum speed, lock weapons, we're going in. The commander appeared on screen. "Admiral Min, they are not our allies. We have no obligation to help them." "No," Min agreed. "But they're asking for help, and we have the power to give it. That's enough for me. Are you with us?" The commander smiled. "I'm learning from you humans. Sometimes the right thing to do is simply the right thing to do. We're with you, Admiral." 4 ships accelerated toward the distress call. When they arrived, the pirates attacking the transport took one look at the combined human force and fled. The transport was saved. The captain sent a confused thank you message. "Why did you help us? We're not your friends." "Maybe not yet," Min replied. "But we're not looking for enemies. We're looking for friends. If you ever need help again, call us." Word of the rescue spread. Other species began to see the alliance differently, not as a military threat but as a protective force. The strong helping the weak, the capable protecting the vulnerable. A year after first contact, Admiral Min attended a ceremony on the Grand Counselor presented him with the highest honor they could give, the Star of Unity, awarded to those who brought different peoples together. Admiral Min said, "When my High Archon first reported meeting humanity, I was afraid. Your people seemed too powerful, too dangerous. But I have learned that strength without wisdom is meaningless. Humanity has both. You could have conquered the galaxy. Instead, you chose to protect it." "With respect, Grand Counselor," Min said, "we didn't choose anything. We just acted like decent people. If that seems remarkable, it says more about the galaxy than it does about us." Later at the reception, found Min looking at the stars through a viewing port. "Thinking about home?" asked. "Thinking about the future," Min replied. "A year ago humanity was alone. Now we have friends, real friends. It's more than we hoped for." "You know, when I first scanned your ship, I thought you were primitive," admitted. "I'm glad I was wrong." "You weren't completely wrong," Min said with a smile. "We are primitive in some ways. We still solve too many problems with violence. We still carry scars from old wars. But we're learning, we're growing, and having friends like that helps us become better than we were." "That works both ways, Admiral. You've taught us that strength isn't just about technology. It's about will, about refusing to give up, about standing by your friends no matter what." Paused. "My people have been comfortable for too long. We forgot what it means to really fight for something. You reminded us." They stood in comfortable silence, 2 species that had been strangers now bound together by choice and trust. Back on Earth, in a military academy classroom, an instructor was teaching cadets about first contact with the... A young student raised her hand. "Sir, why did they accept our alliance? We were so different from them." The instructor, a veteran of the Unification Wars, smiled. "Because they were smart. They realized that humanity's greatest strength isn't our weapons or our ships, it's our willingness to stand by our friends. They saw that we would fight for them as hard as we'd fight for ourselves, and that's worth more than any weapon. But sir, aren't we dangerous? Yes, the instructor admitted. We are dangerous. We're the species that turned warfare into an art form. We built ships that can survive apocalypse. We trained every citizen to fight. We are absolutely dangerous. He paused. But we're dangerous like a shepherd's guard dog is dangerous. We protect our flock, and they became part of our flock. That's why the alliance works. We're not conquerors, we're guardians. In the years that followed, the human alliance would become the foundation of a larger galactic community. Other species joined, drawn by the promise of mutual protection and cooperation. Not all species joined. Some remained independent, suspicious of the growing alliance. Humanity respected that choice. The Iron Resolve continued its patrols, now often accompanied by ships from multiple species. Its heavy armor and powerful weapons were a symbol not of conquest, but of protection. And when historians looked back on this period, they would mark first contact with as the moment humanity truly joined the galactic community. Not through conquest, not through domination, but through friendship earned by strength tempered with wisdom. The universe was vast and dangerous, but it was a little less lonely now, and that made all the difference.